Hey, this is Carrie Canary Quilts, and it's week 33 of our Dear Jane Quilt Along. I know, I'm so perky for all this work we've put in, but dang, look at it. And this is just the colored version of it. That's not the actual quilt. So, I am really proud of you for sticking with it. I'm really proud of you for picking it up. If you already started it, I'm really proud of you if you're just starting. I mean, that is awesome. This is a very labor-intensive quilt to build. So we're spending the entire year putting this together. And I'm just really proud of myself, and I'm really proud of you for sticking with it and joining along. How about some celebratory confetti? There we go. All right. So if you're new here, hit the subscribe button, notification bell. You'll get notified of Dear Jane content and all the other fun stuff we're doing here. If you don't want to go through the EQ8 stuff that I'm going to be doing, then you can find the time codes to the construction of the blocks in the description down below this video. So this week, no modifications, no variations, and I should say technically no modifications. I am going to modify something, but not in EQ8, and I'll talk about that when I get to it. But anyway, let's place our blocks, and then we'll go over and we'll talk about each block individually and see what we're going to do with them. All right, we have C7 Megan's Mountain Laurel and F1 Big Top, G7 Indianapolis. I feel like we've done a block like this. Guess we haven't. We've done a lot of blocks that look alike. Anyway, next block is K9 Scouts Harbor Honor. Scouts Honor. K9 right there. And then BR7 Cheryl's Clown. And we need to rotate it. All right. So that's what my quilt looks like so far. Let's head over to the block work table and just take a look at these blocks and how we're going to be doing them. So first block is C7 Megan's Mountain Laurel. And this, if we go to draw, you'll see that the corner diamonds are applique. So let's take a look at the foundation paper piece first. And each of these rows are put together like we've done in the past here. We've done pieces or sections very similar to this in the past. So no Y seams here. It looks great. Very straightforward. All right. And then we need to go to templates and print our diamond, which is K. Whoops, I didn't move it. Okay, this is what we want to print for the template for our applique. You don't need to print the rest of this. And we'll be all set to put this block together. Next block is F1 Big Top. And this is another applique with corners, diamonds. So this foundation is, each of these wedges is its own. And we've done this in the past too. And it went really well, so I don't anticipate any problems with this either. And then the corners are all their own section, and we'll just add those like a square and a square. And then that's what it looks like when you print it out. And then we need to go to templates and print out the corner, which is F. Yep, we need to, oh, come on, move. We need F for our applique, and then you can delete all this. So that's all we need for this one too. I think this might take a little bit of time to put together, but it won't be hard. All those pieces are basically the same. Next block is this one. This is what it looks like. And this is what it looks like drawn out. And yes, this is pieced. This curve is pieced, but I'm not going to change it, and I'm not going to put the curve in. I want to show you what I'm going to do. Let's go to foundation. So there's 3 sections here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ignore this circle for now. That will be an applique. So each section I will put in a big triangle here. I will put this together and another triangle on the other side. So each section will be exactly the same, except these will be triangles on the corners. So when we preview this, you can see this white background here. That's just going to be the entire triangle right there. And then I'm going to print a template that is this quarter pie shape, and I'm going to put it in as an applique. So I'm going to do the foundation paper piecing as the background. I'm going to come over here to templates. I only need this pie shape. I can delete the rest, and that will be my applique that goes in here. That's how I'm going to do it. Let me know how you're going to do it. I'm not that fond of these little curves, and when I can, I will change them. But I don't need to change it here in EQ8. So when I get to the construction of the block, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And then we have K9 Scouts Honor. Boy, have we done these 9 patches a lot recently. So yeah, this is just like we've done previously. That's what it looks like. You can move everything over, put it all on the same page, print it out, and put it together. Feel like a broken record anymore. I mean, a lot of these are turning up to be the kind of the same thing, or we're just getting so far into this that all these sections and shapes are basically the same. That's what I think it is. Anyway, BR7 Cheryl's Clown. And that's what it looks like. Foundation is by row, basically. Each row is its own. And that won't even be a puzzle to put together. You just start stacking the different sizes on top of each other when you're done. So that probably will take a little bit of time, but it'll be fun. All right, there you go. Hit the subscribe button, notification bell. Let me know how you're doing these blocks, and let's get started putting these together. We are working on week 33. We're starting with C7 Megan's Mountain Laurel. This is what it's going to look like. This is a combination of paper piece and applique. So these corner diamonds are applique. I have transferred my applique over here to my fusible webbing and put onto my fabric. And I've copied around this inside line to make my diamonds. All right, so our pieces, which you can find my cut pieces on my website. And that link is in the description down below. So these large white triangles are in the corner. These white and dark squares are the same size, and they're for all the pieces in here. And you know what? I got to cut my large size. I only need one large dark triangle, so I got to cut that one too. And I will put together one of these pieces, like this one down here. All of these are going to be exactly the same, so I'll put one of these together with this end piece on it. All right, let me get my piece cut and we'll get started. I went ahead and put together all the other pieces. They're kind of small, but manageable. What I did was, for all of these pieces that are pretty much exactly the same, I went ahead and did like D1, D2 on all of them over at the machine, and then over at the iron. Came back, trimmed all of them, and then D3, or not D, then number 3 on all of them at the machine at the iron. So it's kind of like chain piecing, but you're just doing all of them at the same time. And then I have attached my pieces over here to these singular paper pieces. All right, so let's get to the one that I'm going to demonstrate. All right, so we're going to start in this corner here and start with a white corner and then a blue diamond. Then A3 is over here. So they have A4 here. I'm actually going to finish going around the diamond and then come over here and put this one on. So I'm changing my numbers. You don't have to do that. All I have are these squares that I need. So our first piece is a white and a dark, or light and a dark. Light is the number 1, so I'm going to go over to my number 1, and I'm going to take these two pieces and go over the line by 1/4 of an inch. There we go. So now I'm going to sew right here between A1 and A2 and lock stitch here at this intersection. Okay, there's my first 2 pieces. Let's go over to number 3, which is over here in this corner, and we'll get that one trimmed up. We'll grab another white. We only have white left. I'm going to come over here. It is very hard to see. It is in there. So the seam is right here. Our triangle is right in there. So I've got plenty over here and plenty past this one. So now I want to sew on this line between A2 and A3. I will lock stitch at both sides because we'll have a stitch coming this way. Okay, there's my first 3 pieces. And again, I switched my number 4 and 5. So I'm going to go up here, trim for the point. Whoops. Take a white, and the way I'm going to lay it down is this is my seam allowance over here, and it's up here where this is cut. I'm going to pull this pretty much over to the seam allowance over here, just to make sure I have plenty of room. And so right here between 2 and my 4. There we go. We have gone around our diamond. The last thing we need to do is our square here on the end. So I will get that trimmed up. And we'll line this up on this side. Sew on the line right here. And I'm going to get everything trimmed up. I'm going to get my applique cut out and we'll put our block together. All right, here's my pieces trimmed up and laid out. So these pieces here that had the extra square on the back actually go together in opposite rows here. So that's like the long strip that's going to go above this. And then these 2 shorter ones with no extra rectangle or square on the end will go here as the shorter strips on the outside of that. So we need to put these together so that we can add them to our center. I have laid out these outside pieces. So this one has the notches on both ends. These 2 have a notch. Oh, I didn't cut the notch, but it has a notch on both or one end, and then a squared off end, and then this one has 2 squared off ends. So this is how it gets laid out, is the one with 2 notches and the one with 2 squared off ends are opposite each other. Then these go opposite each other with the squared off ends going towards the one with 2 notches. It's weird, but I don't know why they didn't just, I don't know why EQ8 didn't just make these 2 the same and these 2 the same. But it didn't. Anyway, let's put together these rows. They're going to go together exactly the same, even though one's longer than the other. All right, I put these together and didn't go together quite like I thought. Like those points lined up, but that's not how it worked. You can see I have, my points aren't meeting. This one does, but these aren't, and this one didn't. So what I did was I laid it back down, and you're actually going to have a little bit of a tail on each side. These are so small. Right here. On each side you'll have a little bit of a tail. And then your point should meet and the piece will be the correct size. So I'm going to rip these out and do them again, and then I will be adding them to my centerpiece, and then I'll put these 2 on. And I will probably iron towards the centerpiece since there's no seams in this, it's just a square. There's my center, and I did iron all my seams towards that middle dark piece. So now what we can do is put these on. I'm going to put these 2 sides on, and then I can put these 2 sides on. So hopefully the notches. Sometimes these notches aren't the best. And it's looking like this part of my notch here and here is lining up with my centerpiece. So that's what I'm going with. We'll see how it goes. I think what I'll do is iron these towards the corner. That's what the two opposite sides look like. This one does have some edges hanging over. Now we can take these and let's see. So I line up this side on this notch, and this one pretty much comes over to the edge of my other corner, and the other one should be the same. And I'm going to get these ironed towards the corner. There's my block. Not gonna lie, that took a little bit of time to put together. Well, not hard, just took a lot of time. So I'm putting my applique on. I'm basically centering it with that point and this point. You can do it a little more precisely if you want, but I think you can eyeball this one pretty good. So that's what it's gonna look like. I'm gonna get these down and I'm gonna get them ironed on. And there we go. C7, Megan's Mountain Laurel. Just carve away a little time for this one. Up next is F1 Big Top. This is what it's gonna look like. This is just like the last one. Pretty much the same thing on the inside, we just have alternating colors. Exact same blocks, they just 4 are this colorway and 4 are this colorway. And then we've got our corners and we've got an applique. These diamonds in the corner are appliqued. I have done my applique on fusible webbing and I did it with the solid line in here. So I have my corners right here, and these rectangles are in the blocks that the white is on the outside, and then the squares are the blocks that are on the inside. The white is on the inside. Same thing with the brown. They just rectangles on the outside, squares on the inside. And you can find my cut pieces on my website, and the link is below in the description below. Boy, 33 weeks and I still can't get that sentence out. Anyway, at least I put it on the screen for you. So I'm just going to do one of these. Maybe I'll do 2, one of each colorway. But so easy. And then we'll put it together and applique it. Here's my other pieces put together, and it did not take long at all. So I have 2 different colorways where the center is dark here and the center is white. So the center is going to get a square, 1 and 2. My square is going to go 1/4 of an inch over my line, and then I'm going to grab a rectangle, and this is the point of my block, so I kind of pulled my rectangle over so that it will hit over here. So then I'm going to line, or I'm going to sew right here on this line. This one's going to be just the opposite, where the white goes first over the line. The dark is then going to get lined up with, here's the point of the block right here, so that I have plenty of room for it to fold over here. Anyway, I'm going to sew on this line, and then I'll get everything chopped up and we'll put it together, and then we can applique it. There's my pieces cut out. I've laid them out in their corners, but basically I went through and did section A and B in this corner, C, D, E, F, G, and H. You could just partner opposite colorways here too. So we need to get these corners put together so that they create squares. We have notches on both ends. They seem to line up. It looks like our seams line up also. So these seams line up here. My notches line up. I'm going to sew these together and I'm going to iron them open is what I'm going to do. So I should end up with 4 squares here. There's my 4 squares. I'm now going to put them together here, and I'm going to iron towards the dark. I'll iron towards the dark, and that way we'll have nested seams in here. There's my center. That point is, there's a lot going on there. Unlike the last block, all of these corners have these notches cut out of them. So I'm going to put opposite ends on, iron towards the corner, and then put the other opposite ends on, iron towards the corner, and we'll put our applique on. There's my block. Now these are pretty easy to put on. I am lining them up with this seam here, the point, and then I'm lining the top point up with the corner. So I'm going to get these put on and get them ironed. There we go. That is F1 big top. I'm going to be totally honest. I don't know that it really needs these corners. It's how Dear Jane did it, so that's how I'm doing it. But I think I would like the block better without these applique diamonds. It's a pretty block. Next up, G7 Indianapolis. That's what we're going for. If you watched my EQ8, you're going to see that these quarter moons, I guess, if you want to call it that, I'm going to applique on. So when we're paper piecing this, I'm going to ignore those and these quarter moons till the end. All right, so here's my applique. These large triangles are actually what is going to be in here, the background of this piece right there. These rectangles are right here. There's 4 of them. The white, I think those are rectangles too, smaller, are the end points here. And then we have these squares, these dark squares that are going to be, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them here. So if you want to use my cut pieces, the link, I have a link in the description down below where you can find my cut pieces. Again, I wish I could get that out better. Anyway, I'm going to put together one of these edges here. This one is just straight. You're just going to add them from one end to the other. So let's do this section. Actually, let's do the A section. So here's my centerpiece put together. It's really easy. Here's my other corner. Put that together. That's what it's going to look like. So let's do this corner. Here's the pieces I need. So A1 and A2 are my 2 little pieces here. I'm just going to put them together. A1 is the light color, so I'm going to put that on the bottom. I'm going to turn it over 1/4 of an inch over the 1 and 2 line, and just so on this right here, lock stitch at both ends. There's my first 2 pieces. So when we go over here, we're ignoring these pie pieces, 1/4 moons. We're coming here between 2 and 3, and we're going to trim on that line. There's our 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now I'm going to take my long rectangle, line it up here. There's plenty here. We will sew right here from this point to this point, lock stitch at each point. Here's our first 3 pieces. That's what this is going to look like. So now we need to put on our corner triangles. Doesn't matter which side you go to. Fold on the line, trim. Our triangle is going to be oriented like that. So I'm going to turn it over, just line it up with my bottom piece of fabric. And then we're going to sew on this line right here. I am going to repeat for the other triangle on the other side and get my pieces trimmed up. I think we'll do better to turn it into a square. So this is how it's going to go together. These are the same size seams, so I'm going to line up these seams right here and then sew these outer corners to this middle one based on these seams. So, and I think I'll iron towards the outer corner and see how we do there. Yep, they line up. Those seams line up. They aren't nested, but they line up. There's my block put together. I've already put one of these down. I'm going to just line up my point and my sides with the seams that are in there. Just like that. So some interesting appliques this week. Combo applique and paper piece. And all have been super pretty. And there we go. Look at that. That's a very pretty block. There we go. I got my pieces fused down. And that is G7 Indianapolis. That's how I did it. Let me know if you are piecing this one. If you didn't do the applique, I'd like to know. Okay, next block is K9 Scouts Honor. And that's what it's going to look like. This is going to be pretty easy. I may just put one of these and these together at the same time. But after the last couple blocks, these will be very easy to put together. All right, so my cut pieces are, these triangles are the corners. These white rectangles are right here on the edges. And then we have squares, white and dark squares that are our checkerboard in the middle, our 9-patch, I should say. It's like a 9-patch. Anyway, my cut pieces are available on my website, and that link is in the description down below this video if you want to use these. Let me get set up. Here's the pieces I put together. This one is just like that one, so that's what it's going to look like. And this one is just like this one. So that's what it's going to look like, and then we just have a 3-patch there. And I've tacked down my triangles to these dark blue pieces. All right, I'm going to do these at the same time. So let's start with this one. C1, C2 are going to be 2 of these squares. C1 is dark, so let's turn it over and go to 1. And we're just going to lay it 1/4 of an inch over between 1 and 2. Make sure you have 1/4 of an inch here also, at least, in the 4th piece. And then this one is going to be one of these long rectangles and a square. I'm going to put these together. Now, the first piece is the long white rectangle, so I'm just going to turn it over and make sure I've got these two with the white rectangle on the bottom, 1/4 of an inch over 2. And I'm going to sew on this line right here, lock stitching at that point. Same with this one. Sew on this line, lock stitch at that point. I got my first 2 pieces on. I have already trimmed for my 3rd piece on both of them. This one is going to be a blue square. We're just going to line it up with the other pieces, and then this one is also going to be a blue square, and I'm going to line that up with the white. So now we can sew here and lock stitch at that point, and sew here and lock stitch at that point. First 3 pieces are on. Now we just have the 4th piece in each one, which is going to be the white rectangle here and the triangle over here. So the triangle is plenty big. I'm just going to kind of center it on here, make sure my points line up, and then we can sew across this long line there. And then same thing over here with the white, and I've already trimmed the 1/4 of an inch. Sew along here. And then I'm going to get everything trimmed up and we can put the block together. When the pieces are all trimmed up, we are going to put our 9-patch together right here. And then once this is together, I think I'll iron my seams open. We're going to add the other triangle with the white strip on opposite sides over here on this side. So we have these 4 rectangles around the center. And then we can add these 2 triangles on to complete the square. So I think I'll iron, like I said, I think I'll iron these open, and then I'll iron towards the corners. Yeah, because these 2 are ironed towards the white. I'll iron these towards the white. There we go. K9 Scouts Honor. That wasn't too hard and kind of fun to put together. And it's pretty. We're on to BR7 Cheryl's Clown. This one, I don't think it's going to be too hard to put together. There just is a lot of shapes that we need that are kind of different. So I'm not going to go through my shapes. I do let you know that I put out my cuts for you to use if you like the ones that I'm using. You can go to my website and the link is down below, and it does reference where my cuts are in here, and I will be using this cheat sheet too because I don't know where these go until I look. So anyway, this has straight edges, which will make it easier. So let's put this one together. This one doesn't have straight edges. That's a little bit more difficult. And it will help you with the other ones down here and just make it easier. This would be a good representation. And then we can put that one together. All right, let me get set up. Actually, before we get started, this is the bottom piece. What I did was I took my rectangle and I tacked it to my paper piece so that I can maneuver it much easier. And then that way I can just come over here and trim away for my first piece. And I don't have pins in the way. And it keeps my piece in place. So there you go. That's how I'm doing the bottom piece. Went ahead and put some of these together like I always do. Used my cheat sheet to figure out which pieces went where. And it went together real well. I showed you how I started this one because it's a little different. So now I'm on to these pieces, and this piece starts here with this triangle, then moves to the right and then to the left and over. This one starts up here with this little sliver, moves down to this diamond, back up, and then down here to this corner is number 4. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to 5 and this to 6. It's just how I like to do things. You don't have to do that. So let's do these at the same time. So I don't have a triangle for F1. I'm just using a square. So all we have left are these little squares for these. So I'm going to put them together. F1 is the dark, so that's going on the bottom. Turn it over, and I'm going to put it 1/4 of an inch over F2, and it's plenty big. So now I'm going to sew right here on this line. Same thing with this one. Let's see. So this one, H1 is going to get a square, H2 is going to get the rectangle. I'm going to put them together. And so here's number 1 right here in this section, and then there's 2. So let's put it 1/4 of an inch over. Oops, I gotta turn it over. White is on the bottom because it's number 1. So I am over this point here. My fabric's over that point there, and I am going to come past this point here. So now we can sew on the line right here between H1 and H2. All right, there's my first 2 pieces, and I have trimmed for my 3rd piece here. And my 3rd piece is a sliver right there, which I've trimmed for. So all we have left are squares. So it's not going to be too hard to figure out what we need here. This one I need to get lined up correctly. So the bottom of my number 3 is right there. It's right there. So I need, let's just extend it out here so I can see it. So I need to make sure that I'm 1/4 of an inch past, whoops, this line right here, and I am past this line. So that's looking good. We need to sew on this line right there on this piece, and then this one is going to get a white square, and I just want to make sure I'm at least 1/4 of an inch past this seam right here. So now I can sew on the line right here. Okay, here's the first 3 pieces. Now number 4 is right here in this corner, and I've trimmed for that. And then number 4 is right here, and I've trimmed for that. This is a dark, so
I need to grab my dark square and just make sure, here's my seam allowance, here's my piece, and I'm way past this seam right there. So that one's good. So right here on this line. Now, this one gets a white, and I just want to make sure I'm on both sides of my seam allowance, which is at the edge of the paper here. So that one's good. I am going to sew on the line right here. Here's the first 4 pieces. So on this one, the last piece is going to be a white piece. Looks like I need to cut another white, and I need to probably modify my numbers. I have trimmed for it 1/4 of an inch, so there's my seam allowance and there's my seam allowance. Here's my fabric right here and here, so that's looking good. So we can just sew on this line between F4 and F5. So I need to get another piece cut. There we go. I just happen to have some 1.5 inches laying around. So remember, I changed this to 5 and this to 6. You don't have to do that, but I have trimmed for this piece, and I need 2 more pieces now that I think about it. I can sew right here between 2 and 6. There we go. Finish this piece up. That's how it goes. Pretty easy. Last thing to do is to add the top piece here. I have trimmed for that. I've got another square here. Goes off the paper, so we're looking good. I am going to sew on the line right here and get all my pieces trimmed up. Here's my pieces trimmed up, and the nice thing about this is it's all rows, so you just have to start stacking them either from smallest to largest or largest to smallest, however you want to go ahead and do it. So I'm going to start from the bottom, start working towards the top, putting my pieces together. I think I'll iron them open, see how that goes. So for a lot of pieces, it's not a puzzle to put together. All right, finished up the BR7 Cheryl's Clown. That did not take long to put together, all these rows. And I did iron them open. Makes for a nice flat block.
There we go. Week 31 is in the books. I really had fun making these blocks this week. They just were fun to put together, and with the combination of paper piecing and applique. I mean, I have to really even look to see which ones are applique. It looks really cool. So I'm really happy with my blocks this week. Let me know how it's going for you. And if you're just joining, you can share your blocks on social media with the hashtag Dear Jane QAL and tag at Canary Quilts. And hopefully I will find them and I will share them on my social media. Also hit the subscribe button, notification bell, so you get notified for all the Dear Jane content and all the other fun stuff we got going on. Last thing I do in every video is populate my photo chart. Let me know if you're doing a photo chart too. I do have a video in the Dear Jane playlist that tells you how to do this if you're unfamiliar with how to do it. All right, let's get started. We've got C7 Megan's Mountain Laurel and F1 Big Top. G7 Indianapolis. Oh, G only has one more to fill in. K9 Scouts Honor. K9. And then our bottom row, number 7 Cheryl's Clowns. Oh, it just every week just gets more and more exciting to look at this fill in. Again, I love to hear from you and hear how it's going for you. And don't forget to share your blocks. And there you go. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.